All right, let's now rope in a criminologist, Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, to weigh in on the developments in the arrest of the suspects in Lusikisiki. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's first get your reaction, just on the swiftness in which the three suspects have been arrested shortly after the police, of course, released that wanted list alert yesterday. I mean, what does this then speak to?
Good afternoon. This just clearly highlights the role of communities in crime prevention, crime detection, or crime control. The community in South Africa as a whole came together to ensure the swift apprehension of the suspect. But again, from this and the caliber of the suspects, it takes us to issues around our parole system or issues around our offender-centered legislative or criminal justice system, because one of them has been through the system, if not all of them. And one of them might have been recruited by another victim, another suspect who has been through our justice system. So much resources have been pampered around rehabilitating a particular offender who has today robbed the country this much. So it now forces us to revisit long-standing issues with who qualifies for parole and how as a country do we respond to crime, because look at what has happened.
Yeah.
This could have been avoided if now policies or responses were on par with crime commissions.
And Prof,
individuals.
And Prof, we'll come back. We'll come back to those loopholes in the justice system. I want to ask then, when you look at and pay close attention to this murder and how it was orchestrated, it was brutal with no human spared. I mean, some family members were all killed. How likely are the suspects who have now been nabbed? Police have also arrested 4, of course. How likely are they to solve this case for police? I mean, officers are optimistic that they'll be able to piece the information together.
Very likely. We do have resources. We do have capabilities. What mostly will be lacking is when there's no intelligence that is supported by thorough structures. You understand? So in this case, thorough intelligence was utilized, maybe due to public pressure and so forth. And again, we are here because of community support and community reactions. But then it is very likely because there's willingness to solve this matter. There's willingness to apprehend. There was so much outcry. Although we are reactive, this kind could have been prevented should we have had intelligence in place to pick or to project this kind of mass shooting, because now they are happening everywhere. No province is spared from this. So it shows that, like they are saying, they've utilized intelligence-led policing or operation. That is what is required. So with them apprehended like this, we are likely, this should assist in also tapping into other plans around this. But again, we are just thrown into the deep end to reflect as a country that definitely we are not responding to crime and we are not understanding crime for what it is, and we don't even take into consideration the kind of an offender we have.
Prof, I want to go back to your earlier statements that you made in as far as communities are concerned. It would seem that the community speaking out has made these arrests possible at the risk, of course, of whistleblowers. We do understand that one person actually came out to say these people have actually rented a space within her neighborhood. But legislation around whistleblowers has been criticized, just given the risk to life and livelihood for those that come forward. How should law enforcement authorities deal better with whistleblowers, which is probably why we did not see a lot of community members in other shooting incidents come forward?
You wouldn't want to come forward because you understand of the risk and the loopholes in this and the lack of protection in particular. There has been challenges around whistleblower protection because we are mostly offender-centered. Once you blow, we will not even sure of your protection because of the issues within the justice system where some of the officers that are supposed to protect you are on the offender's payroll. So you wouldn't want to risk. So since we do have such issues within our justice cluster, it is difficult to even promise communities of protections because there's so much evidence that we've failed in many instances to protect them. Once whistleblower protection is upgraded or thoroughly explained or discussed or even amended with evidence as to what extent as a victim will I be protected, because now they are even sharing where the location and a community member coming forward to notify or tip off the officers of these people's whereabouts. Now, one innocent individual is going to be a target because she or he saw us coming in, or since this is a rented accommodation, the landlord's life might be in danger, or even relatives or even communities around, because now you sold us out. They might send their friends to come in. Some information when it comes to identification or where offenders have been apprehended or how whistleblowing process took place, that should be protected because there are many lives involved here. And again, we understand now how heartless this suspects are. So anything can happen. And if they are 4, it is likely that they are 10 in number or even 15. So what's going to happen to the community or even the landlord who owns the accommodation where they were renting?
Yeah.
So you realize that the minute you highlight there was a tip off from a community member, that is something else.
Prof,
we found them, and that is enough.
Yeah, Prof, I want to take a step back and you know, I mean, when the 18 community members were buried following this heinous crime, it was shocking for not only people in South Africa but abroad. I want to just go back to, you know, some of the factors that are driving the increase in mass shootings in South Africa, particularly in rural areas, which also highlights how easily firearms land in the wrong hands. Perhaps you can give us your observations here.
Okay, we have issues with mass shooting because, like you said, availability of firearms, accessibility, issues with a proliferation of guns in South Africa, right? And again, we have issues with mass shooting because of corruption within the system. Some of these guns are from law enforcers, some have been sold and so forth, some were stolen. So we are suffering repercussion of the gun laws. There has been calls for quite some time that the gun act, right, should be reviewed at some point. There were talks around it's being finalized, and there are research around how gun access in South Africa should tighten up. But we have issues with easy access, like through our porous borders. We have issues in our borders. Again, why are communities, especially rural communities, vulnerable? Let's tap into issues of crime prevention through environmental design. By virtue of our communities' design, right, they are vulnerable to certain victimization, particularly mass shooting, because they are issues of access control, territoriality, surveillance, and so forth. So it is easy to evade in rural communities. They got in and they killed 18 people, and it was not easy to even tell which car they drove in and out or what were they wearing, because in such communities, access, they are easily accessible. Besides being easily accessible, they are very far from critical structures, police stations, and so forth, right? So issues of surveillance. And again, rural communities they don't easily tell of such. They don't easily participate due to fear. They don't easily reflect on their surroundings and strangers in communities, or issues of territoriality where a gate will be thoroughly managed.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there was not even difficult to access the houses.
Yeah, Prof, we're going to wrap up soon, but last question, I want to squeeze this one in, and if you can be brief, please, Prof, as you answer. We've seen how this incident has caught the attention of the President, the National Police Commission, as well as the Police Minister, and of course the swift arrests by South Africa's standards, of course, in this particular matter. I mean, when we start talking about the justice cluster and the loopholes within that system, can we not solve all murder cases, especially heinous ones such as this one, in this fashion? What is the problem?
The police cannot work alone. Somebody somewhere knows who are the perpetrators, right? So the minute we don't give them information, they will not win. Again, on their side, thorough, extensive intelligence is required. So if they are not doing their part, communities are also losing trust in the police, so they will not even come forward to assist. But the police should be crime intelligence should be at least steps ahead to analyze, to utilize environmental analysis, community dynamics to project what might come up. So it is not easy. They should do their work so that communities also can start to believe in the police or our justice system to come forward and report. Somebody knew before this could happen, but because of the distrust and the gap and the frustration or poor police-community relation, this happened, and now police had to be reactive. They were found wanting because of what? Multiple issues in their responses to crime.
All right, Prof, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate your analysis.